it is she in second sentence. The initial word in the second sentence, she. So that should be marked as black. Here, this should be removed because this is taken over by who. So I hope you see that the function of who, which is a relative pronoun, and the function of simple pronoun she is the same, and therefore we have removed she. Okay. Let's look at the second connector relative pronoun, whom. Who, whom. The first point tells you that it's an object case relative pronoun, and in bracket you can also read the word objective. Now objective here does not refer to any of your question types, but objective means that whom replaces the pronoun which is used in the role of an object in a sentence. For example, if I say that he started the program, he started the program. He is the pronoun which is in the subject position. He is the pronoun in the subject position because he starts the program. And if you have to replace he, you will be using who. But if you have a person that is in the role of an object in a sentence, for example, if I say I met her, I met her. So I is the subject, meet is the verb, and who am I meeting? Her. So her is the object. And you can also see that I am not using she, which is the subject pronoun, but I am using her. Her. So her is the object pronoun. So in other words, whom replaces all the pronouns which are used in object case, objective case. So for example, the objective case for he will be him, she will be her, I will be me, and so on. So whom replaces objective, and this should solve the confusion that we sometimes have whether to use who or whom, but we will discuss that in detail in a short while. This also is used for persons. Whom is also used for persons like who. So that is to say that it is not used for inanimate objects. It is used with singular as well as plural. For example, I can say that the person whom I met is a doctor. But I can also say the people whom I met are students. So I'm using whom for singular in the first sentence and plural in the second sentence. So it could be used for both. Look at this example. The Gitanjali was written by Rabindranath Tagore. Gandhiji called him Gurudev. You can see that him is in red. Him is in red. And that is to show that him is the object case. What will be the subject case of him? He. But here, him is the object case, and therefore you can guess, you can judge that the relative pronoun, if you have to use to connect the sentence, should be also in object case. And the object case relative pronoun will be whom and not who. So that clears up that you should be using whom. That helps you decide. So if you can locate the already existing pronoun in this sentence, that will help you decide which relative pronoun to use. So here him refers to Rabindranath Tagore and not the Gitanjali. Also remember that whom is used for persons, and therefore it cannot refer to the Gitanjali, which is an inanimate object. So if you have to connect the sentence, it will be the Gitanjali was written by Rabindranath Tagore, whom Gandhiji called Gurudev. Please observe that whom is used immediately after Rabindranath Tagore, who is the antecedent for relative pronoun, whom. So whom refers to Rabindranath Tagore, and therefore the meaning is clear that we are talking about Rabindranath Tagore, and he is the same person who was called Gurudev. So in other words, we are talking about the same person who is Rabindranath Tagore, and he is also called Gurudev. So that is the use of whom. We will look at some more sentences. Look at the first sentence here. The lady gave him new ideas. He met her a few days ago. These are two independent sentences. The lady gave him new ideas. He met her a few days ago. Now here, it's a non-defining use of relative pronoun because we are adding some extra detail to the subject. The lady whom he met a few days ago gave him new ideas. The lady whom he met a few days ago gave him new ideas. So whom is the object case, as you know, and it replaces the object case of she, that is her, in the second independent sentence. So when you see he met her as the object case pronoun, you will be able to decide that the relative pronoun will be whom, and that way you will be able to connect the sentence fast. The second thing you need to decide is the place for the relative pronoun. You must look for the places that can accommodate the relative pronoun. Ideally, it should be immediately after the antecedent, that is, the word or the person to whom it refers to. The lady whom he met a few days ago gave him new ideas. The lady whom he met a few days ago gave him new ideas. So whom refers to the lady, and therefore it is placed immediately after the lady. Most of the men with whom I deal are good. Most of the men with whom I deal are good. This is the prepositional use because you can see that with is used with whom, and all the prepositions are sometimes used with whom. However, it's not possible to use prepositions with who, and therefore when we have prepositions we must decide when we should put prepositions. Ideally, we use prepositions before the relative pronoun whom. Most of the men with whom I deal are good. However, sometimes prepositions are also used after the word. For example, we can also say, you must have also heard people saying, most of the men whom I deal with are good. But that is informal. Formally, it is the preposition that precedes the relative pronoun whom. So this is the prepositional use, and that is one more marker you can remember for using whom. Now the question, who or whom? Sometimes we use both. When we look at the table, we will see that for object case, we use who as well as whom. Who, as you know, is the subject case, and it often replaces the subject pronouns he, she, it. While whom is the object case, and if you see the object case simple pronouns, him, her, to it, there are chances that you can replace it with whom. So a simple solution to this question will be that if you see the subject case pronoun in the original sentence, you should be using who. And if you see the object pronoun, that is simple pronoun is in object case like him or her or to it, you can use whom. The third relative pronoun that we have is whose, and it's a possessive relative pronoun because it shows the possession. Now, unlike the preceding two relative pronouns who and whom, this is used for human as well as non-human. This is used for human as well as non-human antecedents. It is used for singular as well as for plural. So we'll look at some examples. My friend whose car we borrowed is Danish. My friend whose car we borrowed is Danish. So the car is the possession and it is the friend's possession, and therefore we are using the possessive relative pronoun my friend whose car we borrowed is Danish. They came to an old building whose walls were made of rocks. So wherever we have possessive pronouns, we can use whose. In other circumstances, for example, what will we say? We will say Danish apostrophe s, that is Danish's car, my friend's car, or the building's walls, or the buildings of the walls. So the possession which is referred to by using the word of or apostrophe s. In such cases, we can use relative pronoun whose. They came to an old building whose walls were made of rocks. The next relative pronoun is which. Now, whose was a kind of buffer because it could be used with human as well as for inanimate objects, while here which is used strictly for inanimate objects. It is not used for human beings, that is persons. So it is solely used for objects. Subjective as well as objective use. So it is possible to replace a subjective pronoun or an objective pronoun by which, provided the pronouns are for inanimate objects. It could be used with singular as well as plural, and the examples would help you understand it better. I want a watch which is absolutely waterproof. I want a watch which is absolutely waterproof. So which refers to the watch. Which refers to the watch. And what do you think will be the common pronoun for watch? It. It. So it is the pronoun which is replaced by which. It is singular use. Look at the second sentence. This author uses many words which are new to me. This author uses many words which are new to me. You can see that words are plural. Words are plural. And still we can use which. Sometimes in impersonal use we use another connector, and that is that. T-H-A-T. That sometimes replaces who as well as which. So it is possible to use that in place of who or which. So that is a common connector that could be used for, is a common relative pronoun that could be used for humans as well as for inanimate objects. For example, I can say that the students that came here were 10th standard students. And I can also say the author uses a lot of new words that are new to me. So which could be replaced. But the difference between which and that is that is impersonal, while which is a kind of personal. So with which we completed discussing 4 relative pronouns: who, whom, whose, and which. The third set is made of relative adverbs. They are relative, but they are adverbs. And the first adverb that we have is used for place, where, which is used for place or location. Where once again could be used for asking questions. I can ask questions by using where. For example, I can say, where are you going? Where are you going? Where do you come from? Where do you come from? So what I ask by using a question with where is your location or the place. Similarly, when you use where as a relative adverb, it refers to a location or a place already stated in the sentence earlier. It is not used for humans obviously because it refers to place or location. It could be used for a singular place as well as a plural place, and often it can replace the other place markers like at which. For example, I can say the place at which, or the room in which he lives is very small. The room in which he lives is very small. So here to mark the location, I am using in which. In which these two words could be replaced by using where. I can also say the room where he lives is very small. So you can see that I am using where one word in place of two words in which. So it can very well replace words like at which or in which. So that is about where. Look at the sentences. The city where he lives is old. And you can see city is capitalized to show that the relative adverb where refers to the city. The relative adverb refers to the city. Please avoid areas where the population is dense. Please avoid the areas where the population is dense. Do you see the difference between these two sentences? Yes. The first sentence has where referring to a singular object, while the second sentence refers to a plural antecedent, that is areas. The next relative adverb that we have is when, and when refers to time. It's a reference to time and it can replace in, on which. For example, if I'm talking about date, I can say the date on which I began my classes. The date on which I began my classes. I can also say the date when I began my classes, okay, or the day when I began my classes, or the time when I began my classes. Look at these examples that use when. I'll ask her to call you when she comes back. I'll ask her to call you when she comes back. Now let's do an exercise. While we read these sentences which are already connected, try to separate them. I'll ask her to call you, she comes back. I'll ask her to call you, she comes back. Or I'll ask her to call you as soon as she comes back. Okay. Tell me when you finish the work. Tell me when you finish the work. So I'm referring to the time when you finish the work. Winter is the season when we feel cold. Winter is the season when we feel cold. Once again, you can see that the word season is capitalized to show that when refers to the season. Okay, so when refers to time. Next is why. Why indicates a reason. It is not uncommon to see people using the reason as well as the word why. For example, we might hear somebody saying that the reason why I left the job, the reason why I left the job. That makes it clear that why refers to the reason. Sometimes when you have the pairs of sentences to connect, you might have